Okay, on today's video here, we are going to talk about Google Ads again, and shutting off those Google Ads, and on the flip side, turning them back on. You know, turning your ads on and off sporadically, or just what I would call sporadically would just be turning your ads off at all. If you're doing Google Ads the right way, by the way, they should never be shut off. A little easier said than done, I know, but I'm going to fill in the gaps here so you understand what I mean on this video by that, and what the penalties are. There's strong penalties for not doing that. So therefore, you want to do, if you can, try to follow the advice I'm giving you so that you don't have to ever eat those. Let your competition do it. So, and sometimes obviously you got to do what you got to do. It's part of the benefit of running Google Ads as an advertising or marketing channel. You can turn things off. But how do I turn on and off without affecting my performance of my ads and the money that I'm currently making so far? Or not making, but or you're making some, but you're not getting a profit, whatever. You get my point there. Whatever top line revenue you have coming in, how do I have that not affected? Basically, when I turn my ads back on, because this question's all predicated around that. Everybody knows they could shut them off. It's just about what happens when they turn them back on again. So the reason why I made this video is I got clients have come to me many times, and they just, I always know the topics to make for my videos because people have their own theories about things. And they come to me and ask those, and they try to be like, no, Corey, it's this. And I go, no, not quite, or part of it's right, or whatever. But they shut off their ads for a period of time. Like, let's say they do a major site upgrade, and then we have to shut off the ads for a week. When we turn them on again, this actually happened. The client wanted us, when they turned the ads back on after doing a site upgrade, to send the traffic that we had previously going to a landing page to the home page. And I said, do not do that. Home page, I could tell just by looking at it, it's not going to convert near half, if you're lucky, of what the old landing page did. Could not talk them out of it. And then, the question inevitably comes up when I'm right. I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but this is something, everybody should pick up and learn. Oh, when I turn the ads back on, Google basically is trying to make up for lost time. So everybody thinks they have their own kind of, conspiracy theory about Google, if you will, about different stuff, about Google trying to take advantage of them. Google can be, you keep your enemies close, or your friends close, but your enemies closer. You may not like Google, but at the same time, they could benefit you, and you don't have to think about things that way. Of course, Google has the prize, they have the candy, we want it, we got to play their game. There's no reason why you have to be totally disgruntled about it. You just have to learn the rules of the game better than your competition, and then that's it. If you turn your ads back on after not having them off, Google's not trying to sit there and try to rape you by doing that. However, there's an ad algorithm, which is the other thing that a lot of people don't know about. If I tell people, there's an ad algorithm that determines what price you're paying for the traffic. And that's based upon past history of how your ads have performed and how your account's been set up and how your campaigns have been set up. And if you start to mess around with your ads, you're going to mess around with the algorithm, which machine learning and the algorithm that Google has is predicated on data, and they need to have data to know how to affect and run your ads, basically, and know how to price your ads. And if you're going to be shown up at the top of Google in the ad space, or one of the other 15 people that get rotated out all the time, any tiny change you make to your ads, your algorithm is going to be thrown for a loop. It has to relearn what you just did, and there's going to be a penalty for that, which is why you want to work with somebody who already knows what they're doing before they do it, not be gambling on your dime, basically. But, basically speaking, if you shut your ads off, you turn them back on, there's a period of time where if you waited too long, that ad algorithm has to relearn, even if it's the same exact configuration you have in your account. You don't change anything else. You just had them off too long. It's going to relearn. It's the algorithm, basically, based upon my experience and having seen this, tested this many times, it's not going to rely on data about how the current auctions are running. If it's been 2 months since the ad's been running, it's going to assume it's got to relearn. Versus, it's only been a little bit of time, so we're just going to pick up right where we left off, basically. So there's an ad algorithm. We're all serving the ad algorithm for running Google Ads. They're not trying to screw you over by having an algorithm. They're trying to ultimately figure out whose ad should be shown up for the consumers for what search. All they care about at the end of the day, despite what people think, is the user being served well? Are they getting what they want? Are they getting what they want versus something they would rather have this versus that? Would they rather have your ad versus the competition's ad based upon how people interact with that ad, the rate in which they interact with it, the rate at which they don't go back to Google once they get to your site, and they're measuring every single tiny little thing that everybody does and logs it. And if you don't serve the user better than your competition, they're going to want to send their algorithm that has no human involvement in this process is going to start sending traffic to your competitor, and they're going to raise your costs to incentivize you to either fix it or push you out. So we all have to think about that ad algorithm at all times. Ultimately, the algorithm is relevant if you go into the process of running your ads and say, by gosh, I'm going to do everything I can so the users who are looking for what I sell can get the absolutely best experience they can from my ads and my site. And if you do that, you don't have to worry about the ad algorithm anymore. You're going to win by default because that's what Google wants. So you don't have to overcomplicate this. I'll only bring up the ad algorithm because I want you to understand that this is a conspiracy. It's just that's the ultimate motivation of Google. And if you're going to play around with Google's ad algorithm, you're going to get hit because they're constantly on the lookout for who's the best person they should be serving for every single keyword, and not only by every keyword, but they analyze who's searching for that keyword. Is it male or female? Is it older or younger? Are they from Texas or Illinois? And there's hundreds of data points that they store on all their users, and they're keeping tabs on, it's almost like Santa Claus. They're keeping tabs on everybody. Are you doing what you're supposed to do? If not, you're going to get the coal. So anyway, going back to the actual topic of turning your ads off and on, if you do it right, you won't be affected. If you do it wrong, you're going to be affected, and there's different degrees of which you will be affected. But there are also obviously here, and I'm going to give you my ways to safeguard yourself from experiencing any of it, even if you have to shut your ads off from time to time. And you could take advantage of the fact that Google has an off switch in case something happens, and not also get the negative downside of having to do when you have to do that. So basically, we'll go through then the pros and cons of shutting the ads off, turning them on, avoiding the bad stuff that comes with that, and all of that stuff. And you could walk away knowing how to shut your ads off so you don't be affected by it. So as a background to this whole strategy, if you will, turning off your ads and turning them back on again, I just want to throw out there the most common reasons, obviously, that you probably could already kind of guess this stuff, but why people want to actually shut off their ads in the first place, turn them on. Which ones are legitimate, which ones are not. So the first on that list is actually major loss of staff. So this one in 2021, after COVID, the unemployment caused people a lot of in the construction space, but also in e-commerce, people that have actual distribution hubs that they have to run, they can't find staff. And then so they can't run the ads because nobody will show up for an interview, blah, blah, blah. One of the possibility, and I'm just going through actual scenarios, I should say, that I've seen where people had to shut their ads off. With that, you know, you're going to lose, by the way, more money. If you have to pay people double to get your staff so you don't have to shut off your ads, you're better off doing that. I know that's a hard pill to swallow, but I'm telling you, if you have to shut off your ads for a couple months and you've had like any kind of budget, let's say you had to spend more than, you know, for sure $10,000 a month on ads, you don't want to do that. If you have to hold a sign out saying you're paying $30 an hour for grunt labor, you do it. It's just my little rant about that, because I've seen people try to get cheap, if you will, and say, well, I can't shut the ads off. You gotta look at the whole picture here. Owner illness, obviously sometimes you can't run some businesses aren't automated, so owner gets pneumonia, hospitalized, hit by a truck. That would be a legitimate reason to have your ads shut off. Holidays, so a lot of people, they think that, you know, over Thanksgiving we're not going to be doing anything, we're shut down. Run the ads anyway. You know, don't you think the consumers know that you're not open on Thanksgiving Day? Obviously, if you're talking about like, you know, like water damage, flooding, emergency water flooding water removal services, they might assume you're there. In that case, you might have to be. But for most 98% of services out there, they know that you're on break. And so, and with everybody, a few other people, I should say, will shut their ads off. If you have your ads on, your click cost goes cheaper, sometimes in half of what it normally would be the day before. You pick up the leads that know they can wait till Monday and they have time to do the research on Thanksgiving. Why would you not want that traffic? So anyway, that's not really a legitimate reason in my book. Supply issues, obviously, another, you know, with COVID, there's supply issues on raw materials, so on and so forth. My thing with that, I've seen people, I think with everybody else having supply issues, I'm going to be taking a deposit if it's a service job. And for products, I'm going to be taking, you know, fill out this form and let us, so that we can let you know when it's back in stock. Just some workarounds. But sometimes, obviously, with products, you have to shut the ads off. If it's too much, but again, I would just be shutting off ads on a product by product basis. And if your ads aren't set up to target product by product, you need to have that. Get it out in front of it so you do. And then funding issues. So here's the big one that just drives me nuts. And it's easy for me to say it's not my business that has the problem, but you know, there's no reason why you should ever run out of money if you're even an average operator here, because the ads, once they're working, it delivers day in and day out, and it's pretty consistent. Different businesses are seasonal, but at the same time, if you're making your big money in spring, don't come back to me in fall and say, oh, I don't have enough money, Corey, shut the ads off. Save your money in the spring. Don't touch it, because you're going to get hit hard. And you're going to, if you look at the whole year, your profits overall going to be down because you couldn't do that. So anyway, I'll get back to you about that in a moment. But anyway, there's actually two different types of ways that you could pause your ads and turn them back on. One leads to a penalty, one does not. So anyway, what those are is basically, and this is an actual exact science here, but if you shut your ads off and you turn them back on within 3 weeks or less, whether that's for any one of these issues really here, you're going to have basically a minor penalty, if basically nothing. So virtually speaking, no penalty if you, within 3 weeks, get your ads turned back on. So if you're sick, you know, you don't have to worry about too much shutting your ads off, that kind of thing. If you really screwed up in your operations and your planning and you have to shut off your ads for 2 months because you ran out of money, because you ran the advertising too hard, let's say, and now you're out of money and you got to wait for your checks to come in from different jobs you have or whatever, you're going to get hit hard. And how hard? Well, when you shut your ad, the longer it is, the worse it's going to be. But for something like where they're off for 2-3 months, day one you turn it back on, the ROI And we're not talking about because you got to build up a pipeline, and a lot of people don't realize the pipeline effect. It takes a lot of times, unless you're selling a $20 item, 90 days to see the full effect of your ads, because people who see the ads and click on them day one need time to think about it, get the money, have the time be right that they can actually have time to buy it. And not everybody does that, but there's enough that will wait 1 day, 2 days, sometimes they'll wait a week, sometimes they'll wait 2 weeks. So you can't scrutinize what you're getting out of ads until you've seen the 90 days go by, roughly speaking, for that person to at least initially reply, and you've human contact with them, if you will. And then obviously with that, any new ads, usually, but people don't realize it takes about a year or even a little more for a new campaign to be broken in. And then with that, you can't really see the return of a click for 90 days because people come back. I think, just as a side note, just some general food for thought about this stuff and how this stuff actually works. So I don't want you to get discouraged about what you're doing so that you just quit. 90% of people quit because they don't understand this stuff and they don't give it a chance. But you get half the ROI in terms of the efficiency of those ads. Same exact ads, wait 2 months, after turning them off, turning them back on. Because the ad algorithm, placement in the system, and the algorithm starts to reset and assumes that they have to reevaluate your campaigns in conjunction with what the current competitors are in the auctions. And there's people, like I said, 90% of people basically quit. So there's people in and out, in and out, in and out, and there at one time, in most markets that are even halfway competitive, there's 20 people advertising at once. There's only 4 at the top of Google, but there's 15 getting cycled out. It's called the search impression share. You can see that in your ad account, but basically speaking, they're constantly, like I said at the beginning of the video, on the lookout for which ad is going to get them the maximum in terms of average user experience per user for that keyword and type of user, but also, obviously, second to that, they want to make the most money. Which ads are going to get clicked the most for different types of users and different types of keywords. And so the longer you have them shut off, the more that they're going to assume that they're starting from scratch again. And like I just said a moment ago as well, when you have new campaigns that you're just starting out, it takes a year for the algorithm to really figure out how that campaign should run. For the average, campaign, let's say, sometimes it takes 2 years. I know that sounds ridiculous. People don't like to agree with me, but I've ran hundreds of campaigns. If you want proof, I can show you some proof. With that said, so the longer, like I said, the longer it is, the worse off basically you are. But it's going to take. So if you had the ads shut off for a couple months, you'll have what's around half the ROI, or the amount of money you're going to make for what you put into terms of the investment. The day one you turn it back on, and it'll take about an equal amount of time to recover from that. So if you had it in other words, off for 2 months, it'll take 2 months to recover. If you had them off for a year, you're basically resetting from scratch at that point in time. Hopefully it makes sense. But so with all that, what you're trying to ultimately do is just avoid that. Or at the very least, let's keep any shutdown, no matter at the highest rate we can, only have shutdowns for 3 weeks or less, and plan accordingly for that. Because we know we're going to get, butt raped if we have a situation where we got to shut our ads off. And for all practical purposes, it's not just losing money. If I'm staffed up and I turn my ads on expecting them to work at full rate again, and I'm not getting the full ROI that we need for such and such staff, you may go out of business. I've seen it done. I've seen it happen multiple times. So this is for your own protection, if you will, not for your own good. I know people hate when I say for your own good, but take it for what you will. There's no nice way to say it. So that all said, basically going back up here about the funding issues, a lot of business owners will agree with me. You want 6 months of float money. So you want 6 months of operational costs including the cost to pay for the ads in your bank account at all times. If you're you want to extra be safe, do 12 months. Even Microsoft, Bill Gates said that they wouldn't hire an employee unless they had the full year's worth of salary in the bank already. And with how things fluctuate in the market seasonally and all of that, 6 months for me, that's our minimum at Guarantee PPC. So with that way, there's very, very little chance that I'm going to have to shut off my ads, which makes sense, right? The obvious stuff. And then the other thing about that is backup cards. I've seen so many times people are super busy, their card gets deactivated. If I'm working for the client, we're picking up on it within 24 hours. But if the client doesn't have an ad manager, which that's idiotic, by the way. Yes, a crappy ad manager is not worth anything, but the ROI is there with somebody good managing your ads versus you, the amateur. That if you find the right person, you're going to make way more money having somebody who only does Google ads all day, all night, lives, eats, and breathes it, than having it just fly by the seat of your pants. For reasons like this, but for like 500 other smaller different individual reasons. Google has backup cards that you can have. So if you aren't watching your account, the ads are off for like a month. You're saying, oh, and it won't just shut off all your business all at once. You know, the ads run out, they're not running, card's not being billed. You're saying, oh shit, by week 1, where's all the sales? Week 2, holy shit, what's going on? I should not probably say cuss on this video, but as you know, and then it keeps going. And then finally when you figure it out and you think, I wonder if it's something about my ads. It's been a month, you turn your ads back on. First of all, you lost a whole bunch of money in that month. Then you turn your ads back on. They're not performing the way that they, at 70% the way that they were. So put a backup card on your account so where at all times the ads are never going to run. That card may not even be run out of money. It's just the card could throw up a security flag. And now the ads are off. So they'll send you a single email. Google will send you a single email. If you don't notice it, you're SOL at that point. So that's how you protect yourself. That's the main thing, obviously, that you can protect yourself on. I already talked about some of this other stuff, what you can actually do, so we'll move on. So basically, though, and if you can't afford to save up 6 months, then just slow down. Long term, over 5-10 year period, you should be planning that far out as a business owner if you're a true visionary here. If you can't have 6 months worth of float, then just slow down your operational growth. Keep the budget lower for longer and just stack. And then once you've stacked enough, that's when you can start incrementally increasing your budget. If you heard what I've said on many of my videos, the way that I'm building up an ad account here is I'm not looking at the conversion tracking inside Google Ads or Facebook ads or whatever directly because it's not perfect. What I am looking at is I'm looking at the overall cart revenue coming in and looking at that by month going back 3 years to see what I should be getting the next months based upon what part of the year I'm in. Or I'm looking at my accounting software and seeing what the top line revenue is coming in at, given that PPC is a lion's share of what's going, what we have drawing in sales a lot of times. And I'm not adjusting while I'm seriously working on my PPC, I'm not adjusting any of our other marketing, and I'm using the PPC budget, what we have, keeping that consistent, shooting to raise the revenue based upon the PPC work that we're doing. That's the easiest way to tell whether or not the PPC is doing what we want it to do, because conversion tracking inside the ad account is good for adjusting whether this keyword or that keyword should be run, but not what I'm bottom line making because there's gaps in it. Upwards of 70% of your conversions won't show up sometimes in your ad account, so you can't use that to tell how much you're making. Plus, you get other benefits such as SEO rankings, which can make up half your revenue that you're making from your ads by running a good ad budget, by looking like you're an authority, by doing more business. It's part of being an authority in the space. So half the money you make just comes from the organic. If you shut your ads off, the organic will not be there. So that all said, before I even start to advertise anything and very few people do this. I'm doing 8 quarters of projections of what my account supposed to do before I start. And if I don't know how much I need to pay for a lead or a customer, I'm figuring that out. I'm looking at historical close rates on leads, average value per lead or per contract. And don't give me, I can't figure that out. If you don't know that, basically, you don't deserve to have this work. You got to know your numbers, what you need up front. Anyway, you come up, but for the most part, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up with a ratio of the ad spend I'm investing per month to how much revenue I should have coming in as a ratio, and I'm trying to keep that ratio at all costs. Because I know if I do that, I'm never going to run out of money. My ads are never going to shut off. So, but for quarter one, let's say I'll start out with a $3K budget. For quarter one, I know I got to have a 6-to-1 ratio of revenue to ad spend to be sustainable, and so that I can make some profit, so I can then have enough money. Money can be saved, so I can then go up to the next level of budget, which then I'll be able to bring this up and leverage more what we have, and then so on and so forth. So I'll say, right away we'll have a $3K budget. We're targeting $18,000 in top line revenue here at the company, or through the cart overall from all traffic sources. All traffic sources, again, because part of what we get is for PPC is strong organic rankings that can make up half of the total effect of and return of what the PPC ads really do for us. There's people that come back 3 months later to buy, which looks like it's coming from organic and it's not, or it's coming from direct and it's really not because they discovered us through our PPC ad 3 months ago. There's a ton of that stuff going on. So anyway, with that, quarter two, we'll assume that we've at the end of the first 90 days, we're at 18K in revenue, because let's say we're starting out at 15K a month revenue the previous year in September, and then this September we're expecting 15, so we're going to shoot for 18, let's say. Once we get it, or already we'll assume at quarter two, instead of spending 3K a month, we're spending 4K a month. And then with that, our new revenue target is 24K a month. And we're going to do everything we can to optimize the ads until we get to 24K a month. At the end of the next 90 days, if we didn't get to 24K a month, we're not going to raise the budget anymore. We're going to keep working on spending that 4K more and more and more efficiently until we get to the 24K a month. But then we're never going to be satisfied with that 24. Then we're going to go to 5.3K, which, if you didn't get the trend here, I'm going to do my increase in ad budget, PPC ad budget overall, and 25% increases. Raise the budget by 25%, revenue target goes up 25%. Once we get that, raise the ad budget 25%, shoot for another 25% higher revenue. Over and over again. And so what you're doing is you're just going to take your campaigns. You absolutely have to have conversion tracking set up in your ad account so that you can see at least what conversion tracking is supposed to be used for primarily. How many leads or how many sales you're getting from what keyword, what state the user's in, or what city or what zip code, what age demographic, got what cost per lead or cost per sale, what gender, so on and so forth. There's a whole bunch of sub-metrics in what device they're on. It tells you how much you're paying for a lead here or a sale here versus here. And then you use what are called the bid adjustments, using a bid adjustment formula, and you could search for that to tell what you should be spending on desktop versus mobile, so that steady ad budget you had that you're trying to make work better to get you up to your target revenue source, revenue amount where you need to be at this stage. You're able to get it because you're pushing more of what's working above average and less of what's working less than average. Let's say that there's nothing else you can do to get the ROI that you're looking for. Well, then what I'm doing at that point is I'm just saying, okay, our account's producing a 5-to-1 return. We need a 6-to-1. Okay, let's reduce what we're willing to pay per click across the whole account by 15%. Now we got our 6-to-1 return. But now we don't have the volume that we want in terms of the number of sales. At that point, just add another campaign. That individual new campaign, you're going to use your conversion tracking to see the 20% that works super well. We're going to really push that. The 80%, we're going to downgrade it. We're not going to shut it off. We're just going to see the value that it is to us. Converts at half what the top 20% does, or 25% of what the top 20% does, and we're going to set a bid for what the traffic is worth, and then we're going to move on, and then we're going to try another campaign. And there's never something else left to do. There's campaigns I've worked on for 5 years. There's new strategies that we can do. It's easy for me to say because I've got dozens and dozens of just strategies where you start off with the easy stuff and then you go to the harder stuff, and you got, after Google search ads, you have Google Display Network, different remarketing strategies. You could watch my other videos so you can understand what those are, but for the most part, that's what it is. You have campaign, you set the bids to get the ROI that you're looking for, you add the next campaign or strategy, you do the same thing there again and again, and pretty soon you have, 20 campaigns in your account, and, instead of spending $3K a month and getting the revenue target you want, you're now spending $30K a month and getting the revenue target you want. So, and all the while, making sure, obviously, if you need to delay a little bit, in terms of your next jump up in budget, that you have 6 months worth of operating revenue all the time. So that when you get started, you never have to take a step backwards because you ran out of money. And so this is my standard operating procedure of what we're going to do to build up an account from basically zero ad spend, or very little, 1, 2, 3K a month in ad spend, and go up to 100K a month in ad spend over 2, 3, 4, 5 years. One step at a time, every quarter, not being satisfied, adding a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. But that kind of, though, talks about how to avoid problems. More so than anything, I talked about how to prevent problems. If you have a problem, you know what you're in for. So take my advice, stay away. For the most part, you shouldn't have any problems. Most of anything that you can't prevent, you're going to be out for less than 3 weeks, so no big deal anyway. So, and how to deal with, obviously, individual issues. So hopefully that helps you avoid 90+% of any issues that could come up in any penalty. Assume penalty that you're going to have for having your ads off too long for the reasons that I said. If you like this video, I have a ton of other videos on this channel just like this one, but specifically talking about PPC money-making strategies, what you can use to make money, set up new campaigns that work, and deliver massive profits for your business. I have a blog at guaranteedppc.com/blog that has step-by-step instructions. If you prefer to see how I set up my campaigns for our clients to guarantee their results, in which we have to have work before we get paid by the client, there are actual strategies. You can check that out. If you have any questions about turning off your ads or on your ads, and any weird, kind of theories that you have, leave me a comment down below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a comment on this channel, and you'll be no different. So, hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully I made some sense of the whole situation for you. If you need to shut off your ads, how and when you can do it.